Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Rosterpocalypse interview. Today I'm joined by Biggy, the coach of the Camelot Kings, world champion coach. Uh, but once again, the world championship winning roster doesn't make it to the second phase. I feel like it's maybe it's not made it to the second phase since like season 4, something like that. I feel like it's been a while.
I can't remember, but yeah, I mean, from on paper, I guess we made it to the end of the first phase, but
Even
not a
then.
technicality. We did not make it to the first end of the first phase. So
Yeah. Well, let's go through the start of the year first of all. You guys win Worlds. I think there was a little bit of chat about not sticking together initially. From everything I've heard, there was considerations in place, like maybe things should change. But I guess with the run you went on, you decided to keep things together, and I feel like it started okay. I think I remember saying at the start of the phase, the post-World slump hasn't really happened for the Kings, but then a couple of things go wrong, and it just seemed to fall away from you guys.
yeah, we spoke a lot. I mean, we've always been honest on this team about roster changes. We even said before Worlds that win or lose, we should probably make a change just because it had been 2 years. But then we changed. We made the Netro change, and we did have a really good run. And in my opinion, I didn't think we were. I was under the impression that like we were gonna dominate all year. But I just thought like the way Smite works is you just have to be consistent, and you just have to get to Worlds, and you have to have good practice and a good meta, and you just have to play well on the weekend. Like that's basically as simple as it is. You have to play well over 3 days in a single limb bracket to win Worlds.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if you dominate all year. Uh, and we talked about replacing the main one was Ben, just because it was like there was that was where the most options were for us. Like support, there wasn't really an option, and it was always going to be support or jungle, just to try and strengthen our core synergy. Because I always felt like Ben and Sam kind of went on the same page, and then Jordan didn't really help with the way he kind of practices sometimes.
Mm.
Like sometimes he's really good, and sometimes he's just wants to play Merlin 3 games. Uh,
That's every mid laner in the league. They all want to play
yeah.
Merlin.
So we talked about Lasper and Panatom, and my thought process with rosters is I don't believe in just slamming who you think the best players are. And so I really wanted Lasper because I thought he was like pretty 1-for-1 for Twig, not experience wise, but just the style of player. Like he kind of is strong in all metas. In my opinion, he's probably like the most well-rounded jungler in the league. He's got good comms. He's a really good teammate, like Ben, from what I've heard.
Mhm.
So I didn't want Panatom. I wanted Laspera. If we made the change, uh, and Laspera would have joined, but then after thinking about it, it just felt wrong to me. Like Ben hadn't done anything wrong,
Mhm.
and making a change for change's sake, like with Ben, just made no sense because, like as a coach, he's like my biggest asset. He's always kind of upbeat and positive, and even though he's maybe like from the outside one of the most inconsistent players in the league, I think that's just due to the way he plays. His playstyle is he's not going to be a guy that loses a game and he's 2-2.
Mhm.
He's going to get in there, and if he's losing, he's going to be like 0-8 maybe. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of players will play games, lose a game, and be like 1-0, and it's like, well, you didn't even try to win the game. And then that's kind of Ben's philosophy on Smite. So I just I didn't want to replace Ben, and I just thought we had a good run. It's not going to be as easy. Like we're not going to 8-0 worlds. Like it's just not going to happen again. Like that was such an anomaly. But we owe it to ourselves to individually improve on the things we're weak on, and try and be a dominant team. Yeah, we were doing well until the Glad set
Mhm.
when we were 1-0 up. I think we were 8-0. I think we hadn't even lost a game. 9-0.
Yeah.
And then Genetics made this absolutely terrible call to sit in a Marty bush with no ultimates in a 4v5. And I think they wiped us and ended. And then after that, it was like a late set. It was like the third set of the day, and people were just so tilted. It was late, like the excuse, like, oh, my players will complain. Oh no, I have to play at like 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
11
difficult.
a.m.'s too early, 6 p.m.'s too late.
Yeah, it's like the sweet spot is like the second set. Some like the first set,
Mhm.
and I could just like you can just tell as a coach sometimes when you like, oh, this things aren't going to go well. And I just had a bad feeling. People were so tilted, and they didn't want to like fight. They didn't. It's like, yeah, it's okay. It was kind of embarrassing to lose that game because Glad's are a bottom place team.
Mhm.
But we were like the world champions. That was when we could have been like, okay, that was our first like test, right? That was our first challenge of the year. Let's win this third game, and and then talk about it after. And I feel like our first real challenge of the year, we just fell apart. And then from there was like a lot of tilt. I think people started blaming people behind the scenes,
Mhm.
and then kind of any kind of like issues started being brought to the surface, because when you're winning, you can kind of ignore all the issues.
Yeah.
And then and then I think that's Lobato Jr. And then I
Lovato
think
Jr.
or Arthur. And then I think we just kept losing. I think we had two sets the next weekend and we lost both of them. And I think maybe Ben didn't have particularly good games then. So there was just a lot of talk, and I think that's when Sam became unhappy. He kind of saw the writing on the wall,
Mhm.
and I think that's when he started talking to Panatom. And he even mentioned to me, I'm speaking to Panatom. I think we should pick up Panatom at the end of the LAN and at the end of the split. And I said, yeah, maybe I'd be open to it. Like, I think we probably need a change just because the whole environment kind of fell apart. People weren't as motivated. And I think when you lose like the motivation, that's when you kind of need a change.
Mhm.
And you need like it to make a change for the better to lift everyone's spirits a bit.
Yeah, one of those
And
spring
yeah,
changes, right? Where like whenever
yeah.
you make a roster change, everybody puts their best foot forward for at least a couple weeks. I feel like, right?
Well, it's just the dopamine. It's like a change. It's something new. It's exciting. Everyone wants to prove to the new player that you're a good team and like
Mhm.
your environment's really good. And I said I don't want to talk about it. Just play out the split. I don't want to think about roster changes. There's no point. I'm not that kind of coach that like I'm different to Sam. I think especially after replacing Netroid last year, I think he's going to be on this kind of wave now where he's not going to be worried to replace players, especially on Warriors now. So I think if I was one or two of them, I'd maybe be washing my back a little bit,
Ooh.
just in case.
Yeah.
But I think he's not afraid to replace players for players that he thinks will do a better job, or just if someone's not performing. So
Yeah. I guess he might have that
he
confirmation bias, right? If it worked once, so now he feels like it'll always work.
yeah, so he was hard on the Panatom train. He won a Panatom before the season. I don't know, they just got a bit of a bromance, I think, and they talk a lot. And I think they both wanted to team with each other. But I said wait till after the LAN. And it was kind of left there, and things didn't improve. I think we lost maybe like all the rest of our sets. I think no, we won one. I think we beat. I can't remember who we beat, but we won one of our last 5 sets or 6. One of our last 6, so we were 5-5.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of like the split ended, and it was like, okay, now it doesn't matter. We kind of threw first seed. I think we could have even been first seed. We lost to like
You lost to Ravens, I want to say, or some, or was that somebody
we had.
lost to
I think
Ravens?
I think we had a pretty winnable game. Maybe it was game 3 against Ravens or something, and the set was winnable, and we would have been first seed. And then we played the play-in tournament, and as soon as we lost to Leviathans, Sam said, "Oh, I've got an offer from Warriors. I'm thinking about taking it." And I said, "I'm always open. Like, I don't want to coach someone that doesn't want to be here. I don't care how good they think they are or how good I think they are.
Mhm.
If you don't want to be there, then just leave. And I said, okay, just make up your decision. And like obviously, if you join Warriors, you have to move out. Because we're gonna have to get a replacement like to move in.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew he was leaving. I felt like he was just letting us down lightly, being like, "Oh, I've got the offer. I'm thinking about it." But in my opinion, and it's been reaffirmed, they've been talking like for weeks, like. And I had heard that Sam had basically said a week or two before, "Yeah, I don't care when it is. I want to join Warriors." So I don't think he was entirely truthful about the way everything went down, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And at that point, we spoke as a team, and we kind of said, I think regardless of whether he goes to Warriors, we should replace him.
Mhm.
Just because whether it was intentional or not, the trust is kind of completely broken. And I don't want a player who doesn't get offered by the Warriors and then just says, "Oh, I'll just stay here because it's my next best option." Like I don't want to play like that because someone like that is always going to look for the next best option.
Yeah.
So we spoke about. So then we spoke about. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of the question, but
It's all right. Don't worry about
that's
it.
kind of.
But so this is the point. Genetics. So is this prior to him trying to accept the offer and finding out the roster lock was in place, or was it after that?
Okay, that was the same day we lost to Leviathans. I think
Okay.
for the seeding tournament. I mean, yeah, that was the same day. It all happened, and we were having a team talk without Sam because it was about who we were going to get. Because I is saying he's going to leave. Like
Mhm.
he's not thinking about it. He knows he's leaving. He's just playing ball. He's
Yeah.
just making it look the way he wants it to look. He's leaving, and then he says, "Oh well, roster locked." And to me, I was like, fuck me. Like, are these guys clowns or something? They've
Yeah.
not even they've they've made a change. They hadn't told Jake, and they haven't even checked if roster lock if they can make the change. And that's when I messaged Jake because I just like I couldn't believe it in a way. I was like, there's no way like does Jake know about this? And apparently I thought he would have known already, but then apparently he didn't. So
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I found out slightly early, and I was still under the impression that going into the tournament, Jake didn't know, but I'm glad that he did find out ahead of it happening. So then you guys have what, like 2 weeks of practice going into the event, something like that, and you've got to practice with a player who you know is not going to be on the team anymore, regardless of whether he
yeah.
gets picked up by the Warriors. And you, as I understand it, you pulled in Quig for a couple practice sessions in that period. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, the whole Jake thing, I was kind of pissed. Like, I'll admit, I was pissed because I felt like it felt like a bit of a job to screw us over. Last second, they're just going to take genetics and he's going to leave to Warriors and they're on our bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, without all this drama, we were favored to beat Dragon, so we probably most likely would have played Warriors in the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt a bit of like hey, last minute we're gonna fuck you over, and so that's kind of partially why I messaged Jake because when I think it was after the roster lock thing, because I thought, well, I'm not gonna be in a situation where I'm teaming with a guy that I know is leaving, and then there's a guy in another team on this other team that started all this shit and then they're just gonna like keep him in the dark and he's never gonna know and they're gonna have a run at a tournament. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, a bit of your own medicine.
So yeah,
Because
Jake finds out. Yeah, that must have been. Although I would have thought that would have been awful for practice and motivation. I can't remember. I think it was Twig said on stream that actually after
yeah,
you knew genetics was gone, the environment was much better.
I think it's hard. I think people were just, I don't know, like I don't want to shit on Sam, but he's like very confrontational kind of with a lot of things in the game. And I think a big problem with why things went downhill in my opinion is because in the play-in tournament we played the Warriors and we had 6K leads, I think, in 2 of those games. We could have won that set 3-1 against the Warriors, and then no one's talking about the Warriors the whole split, But we didn't because we were under practice, we were under prepared. Like the Warriors had been grinding, and I don't take that as an excuse. Like for me, if you lose, you lose. I don't care if you're like you got sick that day or something, So it's not an excuse. The Warriors grinded and they earned the win. And I think Sam became a bit obsessed with how they played, and he wanted us to play the same way. But it was just never going to work, Like Ben's not that kind of player. Jordan's not that kind of player. Yark didn't want to play that way. I don't coach that way. The way I coach is the way we played at Worlds. Like slow and methodical, and just get the macro correct. Keep like the micro, like make sure the micro, like the repetitions in practice are good, and then really work on your macro, as a team. But Sam really became like obsessed with how the Warriors play, and I think that's why, in the end, he wanted to leave because I think he wants to play that style. He wants to play some weird picks, and fair enough. Like we shut down a lot of his like janky picks, and I don't knock him for leaving. It's his choice. But yeah, I do think that was a big part of why he left. A part of me thinks the whole split he kind of wanted to go, or like he kind of thought, oh, if I was on this Warriors team, we'd be 13-0 and getting all the praise, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of, I guess, was the problem with the environment. And then leading into the LAN, I just think people were kind of like at peace knowing that something was going to change in a way. It was kind of like, well, there's no expectations. We have no expectations of ourselves because we're kind of just playing it out. And I think Ben especially, who felt under a lot of pressure when he performed badly in that environment, was kind of like, I'm going to play the way I play. I don't really care what you want to do, Sam. I'm going to play the way I play because you're leaving, and that's it. And then we didn't really work on anything, in my opinion. We didn't improve. We just kind of went through the motions, won or lost, tried to figure out the meta, and we're never really on the same page with the meta, and we lost. So
yeah, did your job, I guess, and showed up. But yeah, it's hard to stay motivated and to really focus on improving, I suppose. But you did try out Quig during that time. Was he sort of your one and only choice during that period that you really seriously considered to come in for genetics as a replacement?
we thought about Jake, and I never brought it up to the team, but I thought about Neil just because of the kind of player he is. But Quig was like far and away our number one choice. Just for me, he is different to Jake. And if I was on a team where I thought Jake made sense, I would go Jake for sure. If I had a jungle that was very vocal that led the team around, if I had a mid laner that, like wanted to play the way Jake plays, just super aggressive, clear, fast rotations, then I would go with Jake.
Yeah.
But we don't have that kind of roster, and Quig fits our roster perfectly. He's got really good comms in the early game. I guess we didn't see like too much shot calling wise, but that's not really a problem. We have Yark for shot calling, and then Harry as well in some stages. But I just really liked how proactive he was. I felt like he was pulling Ben places, and he was talking to Yark a lot, and just he was working a lot. He was getting things going in the early game. Even on the back foot, he was communicating a lot. And I thought that I was like, okay, this is exactly what our core needs. We need a communicator because Ben's just not a talker, kind of, especially in some like big moments like team fights and stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't like to talk while he CCs, right? While he uses abilities, he doesn't really like to talk. That was my experience anyway.
Which is fine. Like Ben is who he is. He's not going to change. That's fine. And then Jordan is kind of, I don't know. It's like what you get on the day. Like he's good in game day, but he's a criminal in scrims.
Yeah.
He
Criminal.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be the physically. Oh, mentally he doesn't want to be the. Physically he's fine being the. But so yeah, we scrimmed. I mean, we only scrimmed an SCC team, and we went 2-1. But it didn't really matter to me. It was like it was the potential, and I think Quig has had a really good split. I know the Hounds were really, really like worried about losing him, and uh, Jake just didn't make sense to me. Harry's team with Jake before, and he said no. He said it wouldn't make sense in our team, and I trust Harry's opinion. It was nothing on Jake as like a person. I actually like love interacting with Jake. I think he's like super like innocent, like fun guy, and I would have been happy to coach him. But just on our team, I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah,
If Quig had have said no, I would have gone with Jake and just have seen what we can do. But as far as like the best and long term option was Quig for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I actually forgot that Variety and Jake played together on the Renegades for a little bit. I totally forgot that the Variety came into that team for a while. Man, that was a weird stint in Smite. But yeah, I guess I can understand. I think that seems to have been the case with a lot of teams. It seems to be the same case with the Hounds as well, where people recognize that Jake is and has been the best support in the league this phase, but he might not be what your team needs. It's not all about individual skill, right? It's about fit, and I think Jake's gotten pretty screwed over, very unlucky throughout all this. We'll see how he does on the Glads. Maybe it'll be a good fit for him. But
Yeah, I agree. It didn't make sense to me. Like Genix is a great player, but uh, it's from my point of view, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I don't think he makes sense on that team as like a. I think he just doesn't play anywhere near the way Jake plays. Maybe I can see them being like just as strong for sure, but I don't know if it's going to be as smooth. I think Gen X is very opinionated, and he likes to play a certain way. Uh, and he's not the easiest to deal with. Like he knows that, and I kind of wonder who actually wanted to team with him on that team and who wanted to keep Jake. So I don't know, maybe if there'll be a divide at some stage. If things don't keep going well, then I mean the other thing for me is he kicked Netroid last year. So.
yeah, exactly. That's the mad one. And Net last year seemed a little. I did an interview with Netroid about it at the time. He seemed a little pissed off, to be honest. He didn't seem particularly happy with the way things went down. So, but I'm sure he must have been on board. He must have been at least on board with the decision. I guess in the end, we'll see.
I mean, I don't really know. I can't speak for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just surprising to me because yeah, I mean that's also the other reason I'm not that surprised that things weren't communicated properly on their ends, because the same thing happened last year when I think Sam brought it up to Jordan and Ben about replacing Royd, and then they had a team call without me, and I was the last one to find out that we were replacing Royd, and I was the one that had to kick him to his face.
Mm.
So I'm not too surprised that like that's the way they do their dealings. But
Shady ones.
I don't know. I guess.
Anyway,
I just think it's not good. I just think they're just not good with confrontation. That's all. Maybe they don't intend to be shady, but I don't know, you just can't work. I just don't think you can work that way. I don't think it's fair to people.
yeah, makes things very, very difficult. It's always been best to be direct in these situations. Let people know they need to improve, and then when they don't improve, you say, "Well, this is why we're making the change." But yeah, anyway. Overall Rosterpocalypse vibes. It's been a mad one. I can't believe that it might not be over. Hopefully it's over. I hope it's over. I don't want any more, but we'll see. How do you feel? I mean, I guess your thoughts on the Warriors is that you're not sure. You're definitely not confident they got any better. You think they may have gotten worse, if I'm reading it right. And then Hounds and Glads as well.
I think for the way they were playing, yeah, I think they got worse. I think Jake. I think Jake was, from the outside looking in, I think Jake was the most important piece of that puzzle, that split. He played all the most obnoxious picks. He defined the support meta. Everyone was kind of trying to copy what he was doing. and then still like saying, "Oh no, the no hell's bad, no Afra's bad," and then Jake was owning on it week after week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, when you scrim against those guys, it was impossible. And it's not because of what Panatom was playing. It's not because of like what Royd was playing or Sot was playing. It's because of what Jake, and then to a point, like obviously the Hebo was strong in mid, and Pagon was playing really well. But if you have that roster and Jake's just playing like, I don't know, random support like Ymir Terra, I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's as kind of potent. You know, they became really hard to draft against because Jake had 3 or 4 picks that you just didn't want to play against.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't confident on them, then you couldn't trade well against them. And so then it really helped Royd because he never got, one of his 2 or 3 picks banned, and which I think is like when he's in his comfort zone. And I think that made them really strong. I think they can still be strong. It's just they're gonna have to kind of change the way they play a little bit. Unless I think it'll be interesting. I think it will be genuinely interesting to watch how they adapt, whether they adapt to the way Sam plays or whether Sam's like, okay, because I would say Sam is a kind of slower, more passive support in a way. But I think he wants to play aggressively, so it could be interesting. And I'm not saying like they'll be bad. I think they just have like to figure out how they want to play, and it could go either way for me.
More difficult for them to be good than it was already, type thing. Like they already had it
Yeah,
figured out, and
maybe.
now they got to figure it out again, I guess, in one way or
Yeah.
another.
I think Glads. I'm not really sure with Glads. They lost Scary, which I think was a good decision to kick Scary. I think he's kind of been using and abusing the system for a few years. So, which is kind of sad because I think he's a really good player, but then when he gets in the league, he just
Coasts, right? Yeah.
vibes. He just vibes.
Yeah.
But like we saw how well he played in that play-in tournament. He's still the scary D like that was winning worlds. He just, I don't know, doesn't want to put the work in or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind of dragged them over the line in that tournament. I feel like he was like the
Yeah.
defining factor for that team. But yeah, didn't feel like there
Yeah.
was any way you could keep him, right?
And then Jake. I mean, that's the other thing with Jake. Jake's such a strange kind of like player in the fact that I almost worry like is replacing inbound with Jake the right thing, Just because I've heard of like obviously like mechanical skill 1-to-1 maybe Jake is like has a people have a high opinion of Jake. But I know inbound is a very vocal like leader, that's his major strength. And Kermie said that he's a leader in your interview.
Mm-hmm.
I worry that it's a lot on Kermie's shoulders now because I can't imagine that Stuart or Snoopy are like too vocal. Maybe
I
Snoopy.
think Snoopy maybe, yeah.
I think Snoopy maybe, but I'm pretty sure Stuart's not a big communicator, and I know Jake isn't a big communicator. Connor, I don't know either. I don't know anything about like his leadership, so I think maybe they might be a bit headless, and I think it's a lot of pressure on Kermie. But he knows that. I mean, he's a smart kid, and he's like really hungry to kind of prove himself and win. Like he really wants to win. Like he takes losses really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have high expectations, but you never know. Like Jake could just have another 6 split. Kermie, I think, is kind of always thereabouts. Like he'll kind of playing well and have like 1 or 2 bad sets and kind of fall off a little bit. But I think he's like on the progression to becoming a really good jungler.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And Stuart, if Connor's like, I thought Connor was the best player on Ravens when we played them at Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he caused us a lot of problems, especially in team fights. So they have a lot of pieces. It's good pieces. It's just whether it works out.
Yeah. And then I guess Hounds, you guys took Quig for them, so you've got to be feeling you have to say that they got worse, even though it's Neil. You might like Neil. But...
I think they got a good. I think they made the right decision because I think Neil would have almost been my next choice besides Quig, and that's just because Neil hasn't been playing the game,
Mhm.
and Quig had a really good split, and I'm also very pro kind of picking players on potential rather than people that have just been playing in the league for 8 years,
Mhm.
just to. And so I think Neil had been coaching, and I guess the Chuck kind of really likes coaching Neil. Same thing. I think it could go either way. I think it might take a little while for Neil to get back into the swing of things, but he
Mhm.
does bring a lot of experience, which is what I think that team lacked. Because I think Ducky has experience, but not necessarily on top teams. And I think there's a difference between having top team experience and kind of being in the bottom half. So I think Neil will be really good for players like Coast, Benny, and then as well Oath, who I will say Benny, I think, has impressed me a lot this year
Mhm.
compared to last year. In the Valk system, I think he was kind of one of their weaker players. But on Hounds, I think he's really stepped it up.
Agreed.
And Coast is Coast, like in my opinion, that guy could be the best hunter in the league. He's just that good. And then Oath, I think, is like finding his feet as well. So I think Neil and Chalk is like a really good combo for those players, just to kind of teach them like one or two small things. And uh, they took Fairman to 5, so I think they are like a genuine threat for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I think probably. I mean, I can't remember a recent like a team as fresh as them doing as well as they have in the SPL. Like comparing them to the Valks last year, I feel like it's night and day. They're so much better. And I do agree that that late game experience may be where they lack. Like Ducky knows how to play the SPL, but he knows how to lose in the SPL. He's been losing in the SPL for a while, and I think leading positions is something that Neil can maybe teach them a lot in.
Yeah, I think Neil just brings a lot of calm in. I mean, we saw it at when they had their 2 worlds runs. He, I think there may have been games where he wasn't necessarily playing his best, but he just keeps things calm. He never he never tilts from what I've heard, and he kind of, maybe that's wrong, but from the outside looking in, it's like he always kind of keeps people calm. We're gonna win this way. Just relax. Just do this correctly. Kind of like a really patient, positive like voice.
Mm-hmm.
Which, especially in a team like Hounds, when you're like in a best of 5 against Ferryman and it's getting late game, maybe things became a bit chaotic. I think some of them were saying, "Oh yeah, we should have listened to Michael." Felt like they should have listened to their like Benny. I think said, "Oh, I should have listened to my calls, listen to myself and stuff." So maybe there was a bit of like conflict there, whereas Neil would just keep things calm.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I guess then us. I mean, we're confident. I think we can make. I think we can win worlds again for sure. I think Quig proved last land, and well, that was my only worry. We spoke a lot about Quig, and the biggest worry for me was just he's never proven himself in a LAN environment. I
Yeah.
think it's fine for a player to have a good split, but if they just don't play well at LAN, then I think that's a big problem because genetics. That was one thing with him. Like he like shows up in front of a crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and people like Harry, Jordan, like typically Yark, like and Ben. I think Ben had a really good Worlds as well. I think Ben's had a history of like being the scapegoat, and he's looked bad in like some games, big games. But I thought at last Worlds he really held his own and like didn't really make too many mistakes at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having players that are really good in big moments on LAN is important. And I thought Quig did enough for me where I was like, yeah, I want a team with this guy.
You were
And
convinced.
he's also socially like fits in really well. I haven't noticed a difference. Like plays a lot of ranked with Twig and Yark already, so he's got a good sense of humor. So
It's good. It's good. And I guess house wise, he'll be moving in with you guys shortly, is the plan. From what I hear, you're losing Netrioid and genetics from the King's house, and you're getting Quig and Connor. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. Well, I think Well, Sam had to leave because Quig has to have lived somewhere,
Mhm.
and I was fine with Royd staying because I'm really good friends with Royd. Like, there's no problems with us. But he spoke to me because Sam said, "Oh, maybe we should get our own apartment." And they're moving in with another SPL player, and he asked me like, "What do you think? Should I move?" And like I said, "Oh, I'm fine with you staying, but I don't know. Sometimes like a change is good, you know. If he'll live closer to Panatom and Oxy and be able to be more social with them,
Mhm.
which could be good for him. Uh, so yeah, he's moving, and Connor is apparently moving in through
Apparently.
through word from Variety. So
Okay. Yeah, those guys hang out in
uh,
one of those discords. I see them around
I
gambling.
think on the on the gambling and Rust grind. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Cool. Well, I think that was all I wanted to cover. Fuck, we went long. We went 35 minutes. That's pretty good. Uh, is there anything final? Anything that we missed? Anything you want to say to all the little bigomaniacs back home?
really. I think it's just important to like everyone kind of voices their opinion on this situation because I guess people like to hear that. And there's no bad blood between like me genetics or the team of genetics. You know, I'll always be honest. I didn't like the way he went about it. I don't think he was totally truthful, but I'm not sure if it was malicious. I think it was just, you know, like some people aren't good with confrontation.
Yeah.
But you know, we did something like pretty incredible together. And even though it didn't work out, you know, I'm not gonna sit around and like hate the guy. Uh you know, the Jake situation, that's kind of on Warriors, and that's not Sam's fault either. That's just kind of on Warriors to. I think that was kind of not handled well at all. And in my opinion, I'm not sure how the league can do anything to prevent situations like that. But I just think that kind of stuff shouldn't be happening or be allowed to happen the way it was dealt with, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if there's anything you can really do that in a player-run league, you know.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because I mean, if the league takes too much control over transfers and things like that, you just end up with people
Mm.
stuck in teams and unhappy. Um,
Yeah.
we do have an earlier roster lock this year. I think you said week 3 at this. Neither of us know probably for sure, but week 3 of the next phase or something is when roster
I
locks come
think
in.
I think they said week 2, and people felt that was too soon. So I think they either delayed it to week 3 or 4,
Hmm.
but I couldn't be 100% sure. It was like the start of the season when they talked about it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a while ago. So,
I vaguely remember reading it at some point, but yeah, it's in an article somewhere. Maybe I'll dig it out. But
but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's still over a month
yeah,
before the play-in tournament to decide grouping, and then there's I think 2 or 3 more weeks before the league starts. So I would not be surprised if there's another shakeup either before then or a week or two in, you know. So
nice. Well,
some more drama for you to farm.
yeah, I won't run out
Some
of
more
content
content.
at least because I got nothing to stream. No SPL on. I'm streaming SEC tournaments. That's when you know things are going wrong.
I didn't realize how long this break was until I got a month into it, and there's still a month to go. So
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Right. We'll finish it up there. It's been good to speak to you, Biggie. Biggie, what does the
yeah, thanks for
call in
having
your
me.
name stand for? That's the last one.
Kings of Leon, baby.
You're a big Kings of Leon fan. Is that it?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. I don't believe you, but we'll see. Lots of the Aussie boys have call. I feel like,
What do you mean?
okay. Maybe some nice Australian commenter will
I'm
tell us.
I'm being honest. Neil would never believe me either, but I have no reason to lie.
Well, no reason that we know of. Anyway, follow Biggie, check him out, and he doesn't do his cricket streams on Twitch anymore, but they were a good time. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Freed from Dignitas's contract.
Okay, bye. Love you, Biggie. Bye.
See ya. Love you, bye.